Saturday, the Republicans got together and elected Conrad Lucas as the new chairman of the GOP. He joins us on MetroNews Talkline. Conrad, good morning. Congratulations.
Thank you, Hoppy. Good morning. It's great to be here.
Good to have you. Let me start with you. What's your take on the whole Keith Judd? And I know that you guys, the Republicans, having a field day with this. Don't blame me. I voted for Keith Judd, and you're having a good time with that. And I understand that. That's the nature of politics. But do you have, as a party chairman now, do you have any thoughts as to whether the ballot, it should be more restrictive for a candidate to get on the ballot in the presidential race?
You know, Hoppy, it's a very interesting point that you bring up. Of course, you mentioned the Lincoln County situation a little bit ago. I'm from Lincoln County, so I'm, of course, very sensitive to any time felons want to put their names on a ballot for anything. So with the Keith Judd situation, I respect your point about things becoming too restrictive. However, our perspective on this is that Keith Judd should have been prevented from getting on the ballot, or at least be made to have sued to be on. However, 41% of West Virginia Democrats showed very openly that they were opposed to Obama, because I'm sure these folks, as in reading some of the press coverage, as you know, a lot of people didn't realize that Keith Judd was in prison in Texas. But this was obviously a vote against Barack Obama, and this tells us so many things about current Democrat policies versus current Republican policies. And obviously, as you mentioned, you've seen our bumper stickers, and we are having a little bit of a political field day with that. But on the serious issues of this, the Democrat Party doesn't present, at least on a national level, an attractive platform to attract West Virginia Democrats or West Virginia voters in general.
Conrad Lucas is with us. He's the new chairman of the Republican Party in West Virginia. Let me talk about money for a minute. I know that the GOP has something like $85,000 in the bank. Supposedly there's a commitment of another $125,000 for your victory campaign for the fall. Is it possible or for a party to have an old-time ground game like there used to be in West Virginia, like the Republicans maybe did back during the Archmore days, or the Democrats used to do? They don't do it as much. They still have a better ground game than Republicans of having precinct captains and getting out the vote and all that kind of thing, which you need. I mean, is that possible?
Absolutely, and that is the plan. You mentioned the finances, and that's what we've built into our victory plan. Truly, we couldn't be more excited about 2012. There's such an energy in our party right now from across the ticket, top down. We've talked about our statewide candidates before, this truly being a dream team for us, and that's absolutely correct. And with our legislative candidates, I feel that way as well. What it takes is that energy and excitement. We know that 2012 is absolutely has the possibility to be the year that Republicans have dreamed about in West Virginia for so long, to have that magical night in November where we see these tremendous victories and we see flipping at least one house of the legislature. But the ground game is where we're focusing right now. We've developed a comprehensive plan, and the response rate in terms of those reaching out to us to volunteer and be these precinct captains has been tremendous. It's been across the state in places where we typically wouldn't expect. And here's an example. I have a lot of background with our state Young Republicans organization, and we went from about a year and a half ago not having any chartered chapters in the state to now having 16, including Logan County. So as that organization continues to grow and attract young people who, as we know, those who are volunteers at 20 are candidates in their 30s, 40s, and donors beyond that. So we're seeing the ground game develop, and it's just the excitement around our headquarters, around the state is I believe, at least unprecedented in my lifetime.
Conrad, I looked at some numbers the other day, and we're talking to Conrad Lucas, new chairman of the Republican Party in West Virginia, and that the percentage of registered voters in West Virginia, Democrats, over the last 8 years, Democrats have dropped down to 52%, independents and non-party registrants have risen to 19%. Republicans have stayed about the same at about 29%. How concerned are you that while independent registration is gaining, Democratic registration is pulling back, there really has been no gain in Republican registration, percentage-wise?
I think the story is the rapid loss of Democrats in terms of registration here. We see a national trend, of course, with independent voters, and of course the story with independents is a little different around the state. You know, in many parts of West Virginia, we've seen folks who have switched from Democrat to independent simply out of historical reasons. I come from a long line of West Virginia Democrats, Hoppy, and a lot of folks are very active and now voting Republican, but just couldn't quite make that switch to being a registered Republican voter. But as long as we get their vote, I'm excited about it. So the story here, I don't don't think is necessarily the growth of independents so much as it is the rapid loss in Democrat registration. I mean, the myth, I believe, still exists amongst a lot of folks that Democrats have an overwhelming registration majority in West Virginia, which odds are by the end of this year, or at least certainly into next year, they'll no longer be a clear majority party.
Conrad Lucas, new chairman of the Republican Party. You say you're from Lincoln County. You come from a long line of Democrats. When did you change to Republican, and why?
Oh, I've always been a Republican. My family, of course, our roots go back through Lincoln and Logan counties for hundreds of years, and I grew up with a mother who was a Democrat and a father who was a Republican. But I certainly, even to this day, have many more Democrat relatives than Republicans. But the core value here is we've all been conservatives. And one thing about my generation in particular is no longer do we seem tied to a lot of registration out of being Democrats like our grandparents were out of tradition. Which so often I think West Virginians are so conservative they've in the past have voted Democrat out of tradition. But now, particularly in the younger generations, we've seen the switch over to Republican, of which I'm proud to be part of that. But, oh yeah, I've got a lot of relatives probably rolling over in their graves, Hoppy, because I am now the Republican State Party Chair. But I know it's because if they were around right now, they would disagree with the exact policies of the Obama administration and the West Virginia Democrat Party. They're the very reason why I'm a Republican.
Conrad, finally, one of the last acts of former Chairman Mike Stewart was to say, as party chairman, he called a news conference and said, I'm going to start a petition drive to recall table games at the Mardi Gras Casino. You are now the party chairman. Are you going to pick up that gauntlet and carry on, or are you going to abandon that?
Yeah, Hoppy, if the question is, are we sponsoring a petition drive, that answer is no. There are outside groups doing that. I was listening to the West Virginia Family Policy Council last night, Family Policy Foundation last night discuss their petition drive. Our focus this year is absolutely on accountability. As we know, this issue, as many others across West Virginia, relate directly to accountability. It's about the promises that have been made. Our focus throughout this year across the state in Kanawha County and elsewhere is simply going to be making Democrats own up to the broken promises over the years that have put our state in the situation that we are in. It's about 80 years of failed Democrat policies.
But the party itself, you as the leader of the party itself, is not going to circulate petitions and try to get it on the ballot. That's not going to be an official act of the party.
No. Of course, we believe in the democratic process, very much so, but we are not doing that.
Conrad Lucas, new chairman of the Republican Party, will be talking to you, and congratulations, and we appreciate your time.